So what this is going to do today is we are going to start what will probably be, my guess is at least 6 months worth of a deep dive, maybe even longer. And in order to do the proper deep dive, different than what I've done in my course on the Kabbalah of Afterlife, I'm going to start from the beginning. So really, because what I love about these morning classes is that we don't have a particular time that we're going to end, which means we can continue this for as long as necessary. And obviously, since this is such an important topic for all of you, I'm assuming that you'll bear with me as we go through these particular, all the particularities. So I'm gonna allow for the time because we have the time. And I'm going to take each and every step of the process and allow us to really go through it. And I know whatever we can get done in an hour, we'll get done in an hour, and then we'll wait for the next week, and then we'll get the next part done. I want to start off with the number one difficulty that people have when it comes to the afterlife, and that is doubt. And there's a very beautiful quote, a Jewish proverb that says, "There is no greater joy than the resolution of doubt." There's no greater joy than the resolution of doubt. But the opposite is equally true. When there's a nagging doubt, when there's a crippling uncertainty, there's little room for joy. So often, when there's uncertainty in our lives, that's where some of the difficulties that block us from achieving happiness come from. And all psychological pain stems from insecurity and separation, whereas all real joy comes from clarity and connection. And so the reason why we are going to set off on this very difficult, very tedious journey of understanding a lot more about the afterlife is to relieve that doubt and to relieve that insecurity and to relieve that separation and to be able to gain the clarity and the connection that we need. So what it's going to do, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, what it's going to do is allow us to live our lives better. And I can tell you, ever since I started studying this, I have seen a difference in my own life, because by understanding what is before life and what is after life, we're able to understand our own lives so much better. A fundamental aspect of the fear of death is the fear of the unknown. Part of the pain that we experience when a loved one passes away is it's founded on a crippling uncertainty of what happens next. Where do we go? Where is that person's soul? What has died and left us? What still remains? So when someone leaves this world, there's a dreadful void. There's a deep cave of unknown darkness that surrounds us. It's a fearful place that we're forced to enter into by circumstance, and where no light seems to shine. We're left with a rip in the seam of our certainty, a gaping hole in our understanding of life. The Torah acknowledges the pain of this loss, of this particular loss, and the confusion. And in response, the Torah offers us a wealth of wisdom and insight into the journey of the soul after it leaves the body and enters into a new reality because of that pain. So the first question that we ask ourselves is, why do we have to know this? Just live. Que sera, sera, carpe diem, enjoy this world while you're here, live it up, and then when you're not here, you're not here. And then you'll figure it out then. Why are we starting to dabble into the unknown during a time when we should mostly be focused on the known? Please.
So I started reading the book you referred, Creating the Life That Matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting because is it a rabbi, Minus Friedman?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So Rabbi Friedman was making a distinction between existence and life. And existence takes space, whereas life is continuous. And so he was saying that we're busy with our existence instead of being busy with life. And so, as you just said, carpe diem, just live. Well, live a life that is meaningful instead of being obsessed with your existence, your belongings, your things, and all of that. So it's very interesting that you're connecting this, because life, our soul is alive whether we exist in this world or we don't. That's my understanding. So we just continue to live.
On the contrary, our soul is alive and this world has nothing to do with it.
Exactly. So our life is continuous. It just takes a different form.
That's right. I was saying this before the class started to Kelsey, is that when you look at this, you can't look at what happens after life. You have to look at the soul is the same before life and after life. The question is, okay, it happens to be, it's taking some kind of sojourn in the lowest level of Asiya in this world, which is the lowest of all worlds, for a particular purpose, because God wants it to achieve something in this world. And when it's done, it's gone. And that's it. So
hey,
yeah.
Here.
What?
Fami's here.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Fami says, but our soul cannot serve God once it's gone. Not necessarily true. It serves God in a different way. It can't serve God in the same way it can serve God in this world, because in this world, we have the ability to serve God in a different way than we do before we come in and after we leave. But we still are connected and serving God, because the soul, the divine soul, the godly soul that is a piece of God on high will always and is always a piece of God on high. It's the truth within us. Remember, truth is something that is constant in all times and all places. Constant in all times and all places doesn't only mean throughout your lifetime. It means throughout all the lifetimes. So the godly soul is essentially what truth really is, because it exists before we come into this world. It exists while we're in this world, and it will exist after we leave this world. The life of the godly soul is the true life. The body is the temporary vessel that allows us to live in this world and to achieve what we call in Hebrew our tikkun. Tikkun is T-I-K-K-U-N, our tikkun. Our tikkun is our rectification. It is the purpose for which we live in this world, the ultimate potential and the actualization of our life's purpose. It's not necessarily our life's purpose, but this incarnation of our life, because our soul that existed before and will exist after will have many other incarnations, but this particular time and place where we are, we have a specific reason for being here. And so what we're living here is this particular incarnation of our life and our life's purpose. So while we explore the life of the soul, we have to remember that what is essential is this very moment. Through a deep understanding and appreciation of the soul's life, of the soul's journey, we can begin to live more fully in the eternal now, where past, present, and future will all merge and they'll all align as one. So, yes, it's true that our souls are eternal. And yes, our soul existed before we came into this world, and it will exist after we leave this world. But that is not necessarily so important to us because we have a particular task at hand. I see, for example, Candace is in the hospital. Am I right? No?
No, we live we're in a temporary location in Calgary.
Okay.
And we're in a high-rise downtown.
Okay, it looks like the hospital. But what I was so going back to my analogy, let's say you were in the hospital. When you're there, you have a specific job to do. You can't think about what you did before and what you're going to do after, because then it's going to take away from the care that you can give to the people who you're giving care to. So that's the same thing with our souls in this world. When we're in a particular place, we so often, our thoughts are wandering. Oh, I have this to do, I have that to do. One of the most important things that we can do during our lifetime is to try to let go of that, because what will be tomorrow will be, and what was yesterday was. But what I need to do right now is focus 100% on what I'm going to do right now. And when I'm done, which means in 40 minutes from now, when I have to move on to the next thing that I have to do after this class, then I'll be there. But for now, for the next 40 minutes, I have committed myself to being here. And if I'm going to be here, I don't want to be there, because then I can't be here. And so that is exactly these next 40 minutes that we're experiencing right now is exactly what our soul needs to experience in this world. So it's so important that when we discuss the afterlife, that we're not discussing the afterlife so we can be there. The purpose of being here is not to be there. We're not building up, this is not a game, and we're not building up points so that we can go as, diamond members to the next world. What we're doing here is here. So everything we're going to study is going to be surrounded on being the best version of myself here. By understanding what's going on there, it's going to allow me to be a better version of myself here. Does that make sense?
That's an excellent point there. I don't know, it's much better to focus on what you say than if you do this, you got 10 points. If you do this, you got this. It's much better.
Because there are a lot of people who study this, and all of a sudden their life becomes gamified. Everything they do, there it is. I got another brownie point for the next world. Woohoo! No, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. And it's so easy to study this because it's going to look like that. Because it's true that the things that we do during our time in this world, they do have an effect on the next world. But if we do them in order for them to have an effect on the next world, we miss the whole point of being here. So why did you come here? You should just stay there. Remember, we've spoken about him, Hanoch. Hanoch was the great-great-great-grandfather of Abraham. He lived between the times of Noah and Abraham. And he was the great-great-great-great-grandfather of Noah. He came into this world during a time of great corruption. And he said, look, God, you put me in this world. It's just me and you. I know that you're there. I'm gonna be here with you. And God said, you want to be with me? You're back up here. And God took him from this world before his time, well before his time. He died very young because he didn't want to be here and rectify this world where God brought him here. He could have been an Abraham. He could have gone out and spread monotheism in this world, but he didn't want to because of his selfishness. So our goal is not to be a Hanoch. Our goal is to, yes, we can understand and we can feel privileged to know all of this, but the point of knowing it is to be able to live better in this world and not to try to gamify it and build up brownie points in the game of life so that we could find a better spot in the next world. Because if you wanted a better spot in the next world, you might as well just stay there. Happy birthday.
So Rabbi, I had a question.
Yeah.
When we talk about this world, so I want to think that there's more life out there than just us in all of these galaxies. And so does this world just mean here on Earth, or is there a chance that our soul could end up on planet Xenon in a different galaxy? Like, is it universal, or is it only based on this earthly planet? Does it make sense what I'm asking? I'm not sure.
I forgot the name of the astronaut, but the first astronaut that was in space was Russian. Interesting, we're talking about a Russian astronaut right now, yet. The first astronaut in space was Russian, and it was in the height of communism. And so, I don't remember his name, I'm sorry, but when he came back to Russia, his first interview, he said the following statement. He said, I went up, I saw space, and there was no God.
Yes.
So
okay.
One of the great questions is the Torah says Shamayim la Hashem va'aretz natan lifnei Adam, that the heavens are for God and the earth is for humankind. Other galaxies and solar systems and space is part of this world.
Okay.
It's part of Earth. Earth doesn't mean planet Earth. Earth means anything that's confined by time and space. The difference between our world and other worlds is confined by time and space. So if another planet is confined by time and space, it's part of this world.
Okay.
This world is the lower level of Asiya. I don't know, I've never been to Mars, but I'm assuming that Mars is defined by time and space.
Yes.
I would assume that, so it would be no, if we're able to inhabit Mars, it would be no different than inhabiting Earth with regards to which dimension we're in, which is this level of Asiya, which is confined by time and space. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Alessandra. Yuri Gagarin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Celeste, how about you? You had a question.
So, Hanuf, am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
So, since he was incarnated in a human body for a specific purpose and chose not to do that work and go back home, does that mean that since the purpose wasn't fulfilled, that there'll be another shot?
Yes, probably a couple of shots.
Shot.
The Midrash talks about the fact that he came back in different forms. And there's a big debate Talmudically of who he came back as. I don't want to go into that because it opens up a whole different thing. But yes, if a person through their free choice chooses not to fulfill their purpose in this world, they will come back. Because that soul that existed before their time in this world, that will exist after their time in this world, needs to fulfill that purpose. Because that was the reason why that soul was created. So if it takes once or twice or 3 times or 4 times until that soul gets the point, it's going to fulfill its purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
But that purpose of being in this world is accompanied by free choice, and free choice is real. And free choice is incredible. There's a number of things that make this world unique. One of them is that it's confined by time and space. Another one is that it has free choice attached to it, where other worlds don't have free choice attached to it. An angel does not have free choice. It needs to do whatever God says, and it doesn't have the ability to decide for itself. We have the ability to decide for ourselves, which means through free choice, we can decide not to fulfill our purpose in this world.
Rabbi,
Yes.
one day you tell us choice is the only thing we have into inverted commas, and the next day you tell us we're puppets, and even our free choice is not our free choice because it's still had. So, which is which?
The question is, as a screenwriter, we always ask, POV, what is the point of view? If you're looking at the world through God's lens, we're puppets. If you're looking at the world through our lens, there's free choice. You got to decide your point of view. You can't look at the world through every point of view. You can't look at the movie. Can you imagine if the movie showed you the scene from a 360? You'd go crazy. You couldn't see the movie. There's no story there. So you got to decide the POV.
True. Sorry, I need to give a kiss to my son and a blessing.
No problem. Kelsey.
So could a soul?
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
No, go ahead, Kelsey.
I just have a quick question about reincarnation. So, like, if we are a female in this world, do we stay female in all of our reincarnations? Like, do we, or I don't know, can we be a past male, especially like with our spouses and like the female and male energies? Like, how does
You're
that?
asking a very, very complicated question. Without
Okay.
giving you proper context, what I will say is that we are all a spark of the initial atom. The atom is the source soul. The source soul is primordial. Primordial means that it is both male and female gendered, right? And the atom, the initial primordial atom, was male and female back to back, connected. That's what that particular soul is. So we all have both male and female within us. So it could be that it would make sense in that. Look, I'm simplifying something that's a lot more complicated, but in that context, it would make sense that we could come back in different genders, because the gender is not specific to the mission. Though it's possible that the gender could be specific to the mission during that particular time in this world, which is why that soul will come in as that gender during that sojourn in this world. I'm just
But we would stay. But we would stay opposite of our spouse if we're reincarnated
correct.
together because we've been split.
Correct. Different. We will stay opposite of the primordialness, if that's a word.
Thank you.
I really tried to simplify something that's a lot more complicated, but I think you get the point.
Oh, I do appreciate that because this is so new, so simplification is good.
Yeah. Candace, you were, yeah.
I was just wondering if a soul's purpose could be their death. Does that make sense? So,
No.
the lessons learned.
A soul's purpose will have a purpose during its life. The soul's purpose is to be alive. Death means the purpose is finished.
So then somebody who maybe chooses suicide would definitely be coming back again because they chose to not fulfill their purpose, so to speak.
With very rare occasion, yes. The only situation that death would be purpose, as I think about it, I'm just thinking out loud here, would be if someone dies sanctifying God's name, which means not on their own choice, but rather because they've made a choice, let's say, We've spoken about this before, but I'll reiterate, there are 3 commandments, of which one is to take their own life and not to do them, and that is idolatry, adultery, and murder. So if somebody comes to that person and says, murder this person or I kill you, and they decide to take their own life as a result of it, that could be a life's purpose.
Okay.
Again, this is just me thinking out loud.
I just sometimes you hear people will say, you know, I don't want my family member's death to be meaningless. And so if the world could learn this lesson from my loved one's death, then it gives purpose to their life and to their death.
So that's a very beautiful thing, Candace, that I think you brought up, is that we who are left behind after that person passes away have the ability to sanctify and to fulfill their purpose in a way they couldn't, which means the people who go on missions in their lifetime to spread the understanding of the dangers of mental illness, for example, they are able to bring a certain level of peace to their loved ones who may have taken their life as a result of mental illness. So it's we who are left behind that can do that, not the person who passed away.
Okay.
I hope that clarifies it.
Yes, thank you.
Alessandra.
So it's about what Kelsey was asking. I remember reading somewhere that in the beginning, Abe and Cain, for instance, they were born with a twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, we were born in pairs, even.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. According to the Midrash, not only that, the Midrash also says that each of the 12 tribes were born with a twin sister. Yeah, so you can already see that primordialness still kind of playing out in the beginning of time.
Now, my fallback question was, and I don't mean to be discriminatory in any possible way, considering my own history, our soul, our incarnation of this soul is Jewish today.
Yeah.
Are we always reincarnated Jewish? Is there, I mean, when we are just a soul, like in nobody, we can't do mitzvot, but we still study the Torah, etc. So our souls by definition Jewish, they will always be Jewish and come back to Judaism in a lifetime?
It's a good question. There's little debate about it, not much, but to save you some of that debate, it seems to be that a Jewish soul will remain a Jewish soul, where another type of soul will remain another type of soul. But it could be that soul, even though it's a Jewish soul, it could come as a revealed Jewish soul or a dormant Jewish soul. For example, when the Torah speaks of converts, it says the word ger shenitz gayer, which literally translates as a convert that converts. What it should say is goy shenitz gayer, a Gentile that converts. And the reason why the commentaries explain that it says that it's a convert that converts and not a Gentile that converts is because the convert had a latent Jewish soul. So it seems like the Jewish soul can come back as a revealed Jewish soul or a latent Jewish soul, which is why there are particular people who are born not Jewish who, through very difficult process of life's journey, have to go through the process of converting, where, unfortunately, you can't walk into a synagogue and say, make me a Jew, and the rabbi says, here's some sprinkle of water. It's a very, very difficult process. And people who go through that process, who know what that process looks like, understand that it takes a tremendous amount of stamina. And I would say as a result of that, you could see clearly there's a latent Jewish soul there, because why on earth would anybody want to go through that process if they didn't have that?
Okay, thank you.
Fami.
Thank you. So I love your answer, like for Candace, like if somebody dies and he left someone, we can continue, I mean, his purpose also. My question is like for the, and that's what it is, like that's exactly what is the Kaddish. But
Yes.
my question for Gilgulim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can God, so can we do cross species? Can we be reincarnated in animals, let's say?
Yes. We could be
Yeah,
reincarnated into
okay.
animals. We're going to go into reincarnation through this process. I don't know when we're going to get there, but we will eventually get there. That's a whole conversation. But yes, we could be reincarnated into animals.
Okay, thank you.
And vegetative and inanimate objects as well. You see the table in front of you? That
It
could
helps.
be that could be your great grandfather's soul.
Okay, thank you.
Oh goodness, we have to be careful with our behaviors then.
Just saying. Look, you're the ones who wanted to learn this. Whatever I say, it's not my responsibility what it does to you. You're here out of your own free will.
Or maybe not.
Exactly. But if I look, thank God I said that it's your great grandfather's soul's on the table and not in the bed. Exactly. Okay. Let's see if we can move on. What I want to also make mention of is the difficulty of the language. Oh, Celeste, you have a question?
I do. Before we get off this topic of the convert soul or the latent Jewish soul, I think there's actually a book called this, What is a Jew? But my question is, what really in the heart of what is the soul of Judaism? Because I'll just use myself as an example, being born into a practicing Jewish family, and then having, your parents decide to go another direction. So is it by blood or is it by practice?
Judaism is not a religion. It's not a faith. It's not a race. Judaism is a family. And so you're either born Jewish, you can decide to be whatever else you want to be throughout your life. If you're born Jewish, you're Jewish. If you convert to Judaism, you're Jewish. It's a family.
Okay.
So
that in your podcast, like the other day, I just really loved that story you shared about the gentleman who was trying really, really hard not to be Jewish.
Right.
And he came to you to not be Jewish.
Right.
Because that's like asking to be relieved duties of your family is what you're saying.
That's right. It's like saying, I don't want to be the child. It's divorcing your parents. I know that there are a couple of cases in the United States of kids divorcing their parents, but I think it's absolutely insane because your mother gave birth to you and you can do whatever you want. You can like your mom or you can hate your mom, but it's your mom. And that is the woman who gave birth to you. And according to the number 5 of the top 10 of all time, the greatest top 10 of all time, you have a commandment to honor and respect her because she gave birth to you. And she could be nasty and terrible and abusive, but you still have a responsibility to honor and respect her. The Talmud tells a story of a prince whose mother had lost it in her old age and was suffering from mental illness, and she would hit him with the shoe and he would pick up the shoe from the ground and hand it back to her when it fell. That is the responsibility that a child has towards a parent. So the same thing is with Judaism. You can run, you can hide, you can deny it, you can do whatever you want, but you'll never lose it because it's not a faith. That's why often when I'm involved with some of these multi-faith programs at the university, I have a very hard time where when people go around, what faith are you? Like, oh, I don't know anything about faith. Don't tell me about faith. Because I don't know, because often, people who identify as a particular religion. Sorry, did I lose you? Yeah. So
Back now.
okay. So sometimes when I go through these multi-faith programs at the university, I have a hard time when they talk about faith, because I don't know what faith I am. Don't talk to me about faith, because faith has nothing to do with it. It's your free choice whether or not you want to believe in God. It doesn't take anything away from your Jewishness.
So I was raised Ukrainian Greek Orthodox, and that is kind of my identified faith through all of my growing years. As I got older and started to make my own choices, I didn't find that sat well with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can practice Kabbalah as just a person, not as a Jewish person.
That's
per
right.
se.
That's right. So in that context, which is a different conversation for a different time, but I would love to get into this conversation with you. According to the Torah, you would have 7 laws, universal laws. They're called the 7 laws of Noah, and they're not just simple 7 laws. There's a lot of sub-laws to them, but that would be the 7 laws of Noah. And there are a lot of people who are not born of Jewish faith who then will go into what they call themselves Noahides, because that becomes their faith of choice, which means they identify with the Jewish faith, but they don't necessarily convert or have a desire to convert. And within that, these are the 7 universal laws that God gave to Noah after the flood. And there's a lot of subcategories to them, and it's a fascinating journey. And I'm happy at some point, if you're interested in it, to go through what that means and how to follow it, because there's such a beautiful element and fulfillment in life through those.
And so my soul is still a godly soul, even though I don't well, I just wonder, if I'm not Jewish and I'm not Ukrainian Greek Orthodox and I'm just a white woman, and today my soul is still godly.
So
does that make sense?
yeah,
I don't know.
The answer is yes, and I'll add to it, according to the Torah, by observing, which you'll find out you probably do, but by consciously observing the 7 Noahide laws, saying, this is my code of values, this is my code of ethics, this brings a tremendous amount of power to your godly soul, and it gives you a godly soul on the same plane as a Jew who would be observing the Jewish commandments. So you have that ability through your choice. It's a choice that anyone else would make, a choice of your own. But it's a very important thing that a lot of people who, because you'll if you go look them up, 7 Noahide laws, you go come and say, hey, well, I do all those. But it's about doing them consciously, not subconsciously or not passively. It's about consciously doing those laws, saying, this is my value system.
Okay.
And I think that every human being needs to decide, what is my value system? At some point, we have to decide, we have a value system. This is my non-negotiable. I have non-negotiables, and it wouldn't make sense in today's society. But from sundown Friday night to sundown Saturday night, I turn off all my electronics. You will not find me unless you see me in person. You can call my phone all you want, but that's my non-negotiable.
Sure.
So, and I think that what it does, and which is great, it's so much on a topic of what we're talking about today, what it does is it really defines, everyone has to define it. At some point, we have to say, this is my list of values. These are my non-negotiables. I live by these, and to the exclusion of everything else. And so therefore, when those non-negotiables are challenged, we know it's my non-negotiable. I don't care what you do. Hand me a gun and tell me to go kill someone. I'm not going to kill them. It's a non-negotiable for me. Do whatever you want to me. It's my value system. I do not murder.
Right.
I mean, look, if my life was in danger, or if someone else's life is in danger, and I had to, as a result, take someone's life out of pure self-defense, that's not murder. But I have a non-negotiable. You're not going to get me to murder anyone. I don't steal. I don't steal. It's a non-negotiable. No matter what's going to happen, I'd rather beg for alms in the street than steal.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, it's, it sounds obvious to all of us, but what the Torah wants us to do is to say, these are my conscious non-negotiables. This is not just obvious to me, but this is my value system. So every single moment that I am consciously not stealing, it's a mitzvah. I did something good because this moment right now, I am living by all of my non-negotiables. I'm living by all my values. So every time I don't do that, because I'm not doing that consciously, I'm actually doing a good thing.
And so, like, I was baptized as an infant into a Ukrainian Greek Orthodox from what I understand, to save my soul, essentially. So I can't take that back. Do you know what I mean? So is it a big deal?
There are a lot of Jewish kids during the Holocaust that were put into orphanages that were run by the Catholic Church who were baptized.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
If your soul is pure, they can, whatever you do by your choice is so much more important than what was done for you. You couldn't control that. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything specific. It just means that someone did that for you during your lifetime, and now as an adult, you've made conscious choices.
And in a way, I guess it made them feel better, not me, because
Right.
I didn't get it. But
if somebody does something for an infant, they're not doing it for the infant. They're doing it for themselves.
thank you.
I know there's a lot of other questions. Okay, in whatever order you want. I don't know who else. I think Candace, you opened up a Pandora's box. Please, anyone who wants to go next, please.
So, as you talked about non-negotiables, and I get there's non-negotiables for ourselves, but, as an example of, somebody who is a bakery owner and their non-negotiable is they're not going to make cake for a gay couple. It to me feels like a hate-filled non-negotiable. So is it just they're non-negotiable?
Yeah, there are people.
Yeah.
There are people who their non-negotiable is the hatred of Jews. I think it's terrible. I think anything that's a hate-filled non-negotiable is terrible. But we do have free choice. So they are entitled, and I have to live with the fact that they are entitled. I like to educate them. I like to have a conversation with them and tell them, hey, here I am. We're not so bad, but that's the reality. So, and I said this after the whole Whoopi Goldberg situation, and that is that education is so powerful. That's why education is so powerful.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I just, I always think of non-negotiables in a healthy sense, but doesn't have to be.
But virtue signaling is not going to help anybody either. So if you decide that you want to signal your non-negotiable to someone else, well, that's not your place, because it's their free choice to have their non-negotiable, whether or not you agree with it or don't agree with it. But the world that I want to live in, which is an important part of this conversation, is a world in which you can have your non-negotiable and I can have my non-negotiable, and they could be opposites, but we can have a conversation.
Yes.
And either we're going to focus on those things which unite us, or even if we want to focus on those things which divide us, we're going to listen to one another. And that's the world that I want to live in.
Right. You can have that openness. Yeah. Thank you.
Who's next?
So I was reading in the book that faith actually is born with us, because it's a very difficult experience that our soul goes to enter a physical body, and it's still very protected and learned during the pregnancy, and then it has to go through the death canal as the death valley, right? The valley of death. And apparently one of the things that makes it happen for us is that God is with us at the moment of our birth.
That's right. When
And-
no one else is there, God, it's only God.
And so we are born with the faith, regardless of whether we are Orthodox, Catholic, Christian, Jewish. The faith of God is born with us.
It's innate. Yet we could, throughout our lifetime, choose to deny it.
Surely, I mean, and people do, and that's their thinking process.
Absolutely.
So when I read this, I remembered Yarin's birth. So it wasn't me going through the valley of death, but it was Yarin. And then right after he was born, for 2 hours, I had a sensation of floating experience. I was physically present, but maybe it's my soul that was experiencing something much higher
Beautiful.
as experience. And it lasted not 2 hours, but for a long time, where I could see the situation from outside. It was a feeling of, in after all the classes I've taken with you, maybe I was in awe of creation. It's something I've never experienced before, and I've never experienced again. I haven't experienced that with Naomi.
It sounds incredible to me. I've never experienced childbirth, but I have vicariously lived with it 5 times, and it is an incredible experience. So I'm not surprised that you had this kind of existential experience during childbirth. According to our tradition, during childbirth, the gates of heaven are open for a mother during her labor. And so I'm not surprised.
Oh, that's wonderful. So maybe that's what was happening with me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So to kind of piggyback on that, but in a different situation, like whenever I was really sick, there was a period of time where I felt like I was like floating out of my body. And I was kind of, I don't know, had like this disconnection, I guess. Like, I don't know, is that like
Yeah.
your soul trying to separate from the body, or like, I don't know.
The gates of heaven are open during times of extreme pain.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Could you repeat that one more time?
the gates of heaven are open during moments of extreme pain. You can't control pain. Pain is what happens to you. So therefore, God gives us a gift. Remember, the world is balanced. If you're going through extreme pain, it's in a wonderful time to pray, because the gates of heaven are open. You can pray for yourself. You can pray for others.
So I will bounce back on that, because while I was delivering Yarin, the lady delivering in the birthing room next to mine was screaming the worst pains I've ever heard in my life. I understood later that she had a very difficult childbirth. And while I was delivering Yarin, I was praying God. First of all, my first reaction was, oh goodness, the worst has not come yet. and then my second reaction was, please God, let her have an easy delivery. So I'm here delivering myself, and I'm praying for this other lady delivering next door. Yarin came out as a gift, as a charm. Maybe that was the blessing I had for being selfless at that specific moment. And now that you're telling me the gates of heaven open for a woman in childbirth, I kind of connect the dots.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful because this idea, it seems to me that some of the times in life where I am the most humbled is those moments of extreme pain. That, like, ego is beaten back all the way. It's as if, I mean, it really feels like being in the moment authentically sometimes when you're in extreme pain. So I think it's beautiful that that humbling is filled with a more an increased godly presence. That would be my definition of the door of heaven opening, the whatever you said.
If this world is balanced, there's got to be a balance somewhere, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. This is, I can't believe our time today went so quickly. This is unbelievable. So before we conclude, I'd love to hear what you're taking home with you today. This has been, before I hear your takeaways, this has been an uplifting, incredible conversation and the beginning of something really amazing. I am extremely excited about this because I see already what it brought up today is something really incredible. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We can go around, just give us a few seconds because we only have a few minutes left. Anybody want to start?
Yeah, I actually love what you said towards the beginning about, to know about the afterlife isn't about like, oh, let me do this good deed so I can, be in good graces up there. It's so we can really live here now. And I just love that. So thank you. And thanks for recording this and all your classes.
I guess I could go next. First, I wanted to tell you, Rabbi, that I was reading through some of the lesson materials, and my husband has experienced a near-death experience. And he had said that what you had written in there describing everything was amazingly accurate as per his experience. And so it was just interesting that it was kind of validated for me. So, with someone that's so close to me. And I think I always take away that, we have free will, and that we need to use that free will to do good and be kind as opposed to anything else.
Thank you. And Candace, it's really good to have you back with us. It's been a while.
Yeah.
For me, it was why are we focused on the unknown when we should be focused on the known? That hit me pretty hard because sometimes the unknowns are pretty heavy, but then there's thank good and it will be good. So just really trying to be present in that and conscious in that at all times.
Yeah, that's great. Alessandra?
I love the joy, since I'm in my positive bias state of mind in the past few years. So I love the joy and associated with clarity and connection. That's how I feel. So it's amazing. I've put the doubt aside, and even with all the things I've experienced in the past several months, I've always kept my connection, and there's always been joy. I didn't feel doubt. So it's a very powerful gift that I'm given. Yeah. Thank you.
Fahmi?
Thank you. So you said like very like few words, very like crucial, like the value system. It's the importance that you have a system value, and you know, even if the opposite person have a system value which is like opposite to you, it's important to see it. It's important to see it so you can understand. Maybe I can get into a relationship with him, maybe not. But there is no need to fight. So just like it's and you can do that in everything, in marriage, in business, in everything. It applies everywhere.
Thank you. Jill,
Thank you.
Celeste, did you go?
I would like to parrot Fahmi's, that was the moment for me. It may be instinctual for some of us to live a certain value system, yet doing it mindfully is a very different thing than doing it instinctually. I love that. That's what did she say? The conscious value system, and it's non-negotiable. I love that. And I also like the idea of to what Jill brought up. It's really in the field for me personally right now, because my state is doing all kinds of strange things against certain groups of people. And I like to look at it kind of like in the framework of what Fahmi just shared, and that is that if everybody states what their non-negotiable is, then I get a chance to consciously not necessarily interact with that bakery or wherever. So anyway, that was really great for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill, did you go?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
this has been amazing, and I'm really excited about this deep dive, and I can't wait to see what comes as a result of our time together over the next little while. So with that, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next week.
Nice to see you,
Thank you.
Candace.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
For those of you who are staying for Talmud, we go on to Talmud.
I feel like my book has gotten dusty just because I didn't pull it out like I should have last week.
Exactly.